promoters. We're promoters without a fee. You know, promotional stuff, right? Promo. A presentation. What a night, what a clearing. Whew, thank you. I have obviously very special reverence because I put a post up on my Facebook page that if you, when you think of learning, because when I was a little boy, I was on fire to learn. So you're learning at a very high, you're learning at the highest accelerated rate of speed. It's as if eternity is trying to figure out, how did I experience something less than what it is that I am, which is eternal love. Okay? That's what I had to figure out at 4 years of age. Because I'm not supposed to experience a loss of energy in anything. Right? So you see how that works. You got to give love to everything. Everything. In order to heal it all back, if you will, to the first creation. Right? And then, if you want, the first trauma that God experienced in his mirror. He's experiencing himself, experiencing trauma. I'm not supposed to experience trauma. I am what love is. Love goes on forever. Love doesn't suffer. That's right. Love doesn't suffer. That's how you know one from the other. Which means not losing a fraction of energy as a result of losing it to something that's holding it captive. Because that's what it is. Holding an electron captive. The joules captive. As a feeder line. Like a baby on a nipple. Right? And so when I think about Alcoholics Anonymous, and we think about spiritual guides, healing centers, and I thought, well, I'll tell you where I went. I went at Alcoholics Anonymous. Because there are people that have done it. Have been there and done it. They restored their spirit there. Because that's where you got to get honest with yourself. That's where you clean house. That's when you're clearing out your spiritual house to purify your spirit. Wake the fuck up. Right? Remember, there's a God in the universe that created us. The first one. The eternal one. That's eternal love. So for children or others that want to learn what it's like to be on an energy war battlefield, take them into any Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and you will hear their stories. Because what you hear from them is the absolute truth. Right? You get to hear it all. And the ones that come out of those rooms having successfully rehabilitated their spirit and their soul. That's why I love every one of those rooms. That's where I got well. That's where I did it. That's total surrender. That's total surrender of yourself to live in the truth, which is to be what love is, and reunite yourself with an eternal God, if you will, of unconditional love that goes on forever, gifting everything that is alive and living in the universe to experience what love is, because they have an eternal enlightenment, or if you will, an eternal right, inherent right to experience the point of origin. So they never forget what it's like to be loved. And realize how much they're loved by the first creation, by the grand creator. Right? So that's why what goes on in those rooms, there was a guidebook. And it's not coincident that it's 12 steps. 12 strands. Right? The triangle and the circle. That's why it's anonymous. Because goddess knows I met just about every walk of stripe. You know, if you think of it in economic terms, or plain negative / positive. You know, think about it. I've been in 6 different at least 6. I don't really keep track of them, but there was at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 psychiatric hospitals, most of which were all high dollar, right? And then one I remembered in Arkansas, which is really where the rubber sort of hit the pavement when I'm trying to kill myself to drive into a tree, and I was drunk, okay, and banged on some guy's window in the middle of the night about 2 o'clock in the morning. And guess who that was? CIA assassin. Okay. Okay, and guess who was became his roommate? Me. His name was Frank Barlow. Me and Frank Barlow became friends. Okay. So he knew the battlefield, right? Frank was an alcoholic. He was destroying his liver. And so I went back to see his sister to find out where he was at. How's he doing? And I guess he was in China, and then he died not long after that, I guess. But I was in a hospital that was pretty high dollar. I can't remember how much it was, but it cost a lot to be there. But it was a private outfit, which was called Charter Hospital. And what was rather unique about being in that particular place is they had children and teenagers in there as well. Now, I was in a different unit, which was really alcohol, but you had everything in there. Drug addicts, right? Schizophrenia, all the dissociative identity disorders, people that are psychotic, right? Push lithium and what's the other stuff? Thorazine, straitjacket stuff, rubber room stuff. People just completely lost it, right? And then going through all of those kinds of places. And then, so that would naturally, I remember when I watched a video she put up called the Turnstile Matrix. Yeah, these rooms, I call them loose bins. Okay, so it's like people are looking for a place to heal and recover, and they end up in all these other places, right? That have no inclination whatsoever to heal you, because that's not what they're there for. Okay, this is like status quo, right? The self-destruct machine. That's what it is. It's a self-destruct machine. So that's like auto tilt. That's like red alert, right? And so that's easy to know the future, which means it doesn't have one. When you think of the way that time works, when you know what it means to be eternal because you're experiencing eternal unconditional love through your own heart. So you're no longer thinking about time because you know the energy that is the flow that you're experiencing in spirit, which is what love is, will just keep going on. You're not ever going to stop that flow of creation. When you're riding that musical train, because you're tuned into all those waves, which is all those stars, right? And you're able to naturally do it without having to think about it, you are plugged in. The whole enchilada. That allows you to go anywhere because you're not holding one electron captive. Instead, you're pushing badass energy wherever you go in because you got a tether, if you will, to a God connection, eternal God connection. So you're not ever going to run out of fuel. And because you chose to serve forever. And that's a commitment that the soul makes, right, with eternal sun. And you cannot fool an eternal sun. You try and hold one electron captive, then you're not eternity. That means you know how to light yourself on fire. That's right. A self-generating star goes on forever. So that's why we're here. So when I speak of these things through experience, it's because I honor them the same way that I honor all my teachers. Because in reality, you're learning more about yourself. Because what happens is after you've managed to restore yourself, the acceleration or the exponential rise or expansion in the light you're now experiencing, where you are far more powerful now in spirit than you were before you began a fight, where God is in a war zone. Which means I'm not at war in my own mirror. They are. So I'm catching the deflection, if you will, of their wars and me, but an eternal God is fast enough to go in and out. It's like going in to observe the action. How bad is it? Oh, this is how bad it is. Right? And so that's like a speed connection that you have with the primal sound and light currents, primal sound field. It's like being one of God's direct messengers. Go check it out for me. You're one of me. Report back to Grand Central Station, the single point of origin. All right? So, love is a teacher. So love is the most powerful magic. That's the most powerful spirit. That's the most powerful spirit of fire. Now you're running eternal fire. Now they can't put that light out. Because they can't put that much fire out. An eternal fire will burn forever. That's an eternal spark. Ignite that gas, baby. Fly that balloon. Up and away. The sound of music. Remember the movie? Who did that? Was that Barbara Streisand? The lady with the umbrella that did the umbrella thing? The umbrella when she was riding around in an umbrella and a little push cart or something, a baby cart. I don't remember. These were just like fractured little images. But I remember seeing her when she was swinging around with a torch, a flame in her hand. What looked like, Norway or the fjords in the background, or Switzerland, right? Spinning around. The Sound of Music. The movie Sound of Music. So I wanted to celebrate today and give all my love and thanks to everyone that was a part of my life and that are still doing that today, which is in love and service to others. That's a step 12. When you restore yourself, step 12 is you give back the same gift that you received, which is reconnecting to the source from which it all began, which is what love is. It goes on forever. So when you manage to do that, we share that blessing. It goes on forever with all of you. And so this is a great day to celebration. I feel a lot better today than I did yesterday. Yesterday was a bumpy day. That was a bumpy day yesterday here on the Big Island. Got a little rough. These are like euphemistic or metaphorical terms. It's like being squeezed like a lemon, right? You're feeling the squeeze, which is like tension. Man, like a rubber band wants to snap. Because I experienced the echo chamber. So it was intense. Because I'm a cosmic level receiver, so I'm reading the traffic. Basically what that is, right? A router, routing traffic, hub servers, and because I'm experiencing the ecospheres, and it was very, very intense yesterday, both in frequencies. Well, the echo chamber, I call it a boomerang. All the frequencies very intense, which you know what it means when somebody says there's a lot of radio traffic going on. So I use the word intense because I'm hearing it all. So it's just like, turn that radio set off, man. Right? So you have to learn how to tune it all out. So you can get some rest, right? Go other places. Be of good cheer. Remember that saying? Be of good cheer. Be of good cheer. Celebrating life with love. Yeah, there was a place down in when we were doing business with the CIA in Laguna Beach, California in the mid-1960s. There's a place called Mystic Arts. And there was some signs that were put up there, and you had what was called the Brotherhood of Love, right? So we know who that is, right? When, what's his name? The Harvard psychiatrist guy, Timothy Leary, remember his old statement? Tune in, turn on, what was it? Turn in or turn on, or tune in, turn on, and drop out. Which the message was basically saying you want to change the paradigm. You don't want to live the way you've been living, right? And so this became a radical bifurcation, if you will, between a previous generation who was programmed thus by what they experienced in their mirror, their wars. Think about it. My dad was born in 1913, so he experienced World War I. My mother didn't. But my dad then experienced World War II as a pilot. So he saw that coming. Right? Remember, what's his name? General Smedley Butler? I think, was that his name? Smedley Butler? General Smutler Bedley? Smedley Butler, I believe was his name. General Smedley Butler, who was like a 2-time recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest medal of valor, right? The French have the Pour la Marie, and the Hermann Goering wore, right? The cross, right? See, so they get medals for killing, right? Yeah, the killing fields, kill everything. And so that's what happens, because control is the dilemma. And what it really boils down to, and I know because I've experienced it, the fear of letting go of one electron is what it is. And that on a motherboard, a galactic motherboard, is known as resistance. And if you're experiencing resistance, you're not pre-phase. Okay? Because you're not an eternal God if you're holding yourself captive by one electron, are you? God doesn't hold anything back. That's eternally giving away love energy, which is experiencing zero resistance to do it. That's eternal love energy that's flowing to you, to us. That's what I experience. So it doesn't cost nothing to experience that, does it? Nope. So the very idea you're going to put a meter on somebody's consciousness, right? Like a check valve, like a spigot. Turn your spigot on. God's spigot, right? We're going to hold God's spigot captive as feeder lines, right? And that's how they draw the energy out of the stars and use stars' energy to wage war against other stars. So all of it means that they're waging war against God, eternity. So the idea is to live in a universe that's not at war with itself. Instead, it's in love with itself. That's how it started. Now we're not experiencing that, are we? Enter free will. How fast does it take for a unit of consciousness to learn that it's in a mode of self-destruct? Right? That means that it's only a matter of time. Because going to war against eternity is not very intelligent, is it? When you keep doing the same thing over and again, expecting a different result, and the result will always be the same end resort, which is the end of the game, which is the end of the war game against eternity. So how long does it take before they learn that and surrender to eternity? They don't know how to do that. That's a psychopath without an off switch. Therefore, that future is known within a time matrix. That's why it gets locked in. So it doesn't take down anything else than what it already has, which is a massive amount in the loss of energy that represents trauma experience at every level. Anyway, to all those folks that are in those rooms every day, right now, I love you all. Thank you for all those that go there. Because I will tell you, from my own experience, you can find recovery there, no matter how bad it is. That's why at the end of those meetings, no matter how bad it gets, keep coming back. At some point, something will snap, and you want to surrender to yourself. Because in the end of the day, it's a commitment that you make to your own self, your true soul self. Because you know when you're in there, you cannot lie to yourself. That does not serve us when we're lying to ourselves, does it? We're not ever going to get well if we're continuing to lie to ourselves. And that's why the crux or the fulcrum of the problem, the center point of the problem, is the fear to let go and experience God. And people would say, what? They live in fear of what love is? Yes. That was my experience with Misha. She was experiencing the love in me that was real to her because she was bawling, being 1 foot in my presence. And when I almost was at a point where she was crawling and crying, wanted to release all of it. That's a complete energy transfer of all the trauma that she had been experienced throughout all her lifetimes. It's held on record. It's associated with who she is as a soul and spirit. And she came to the Anunnaki race line. Right? And right at the last second when I thought she was going to release it, because eternity can diffuse it. Right? That's what a transmutation machine is, a polarity integrator can do. Just pull it all back right into one, right into an eternal sun. Let it all go. Goes back to light. Goes back to what love is. So I knew with her she was not ever going to lose anything because she has that connection with me. She will always have that connection with me. She wanted it, so I gave it to her. It's free. Her story is no different than the stories you will hear in those rooms in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because it starts with abuse. That's trauma to a soul. That trauma to that soul, if that trauma is not healed, that's like a crystal just broke off. Big shard of glass. Went dark. Black mirror. Lost in space. Just lost. Doesn't know how to find its way home. And remember who it once was, which was what love is. Because that's what it began with. So for all of those that do the love and service, they're out there as healers and work in the healing community, which is healing spiritual energy, which is healing the soul and bringing the fragments back in to experience being loved because it began with what love is. My heart goes out to all of you forever and always.